We followed the career of Captain Rex with a lot of interest. Similar to Palpatine did with Anakin, we have been infatuated with Captain Rex, with Commander Cody, now with Echo. Pretty much a lot of clones that survived past Order 66 and now into Imperial times, they are pretty much enigmatic. Their journey is unlike any other Star Wars character out there. They were just bamboozled the entire time, except for one specific clone that the Bad Batch went without even mentioning, and that is Boba Fett. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in case you forgot, Boba Fett is still out there. He was during the earlier and later seasons of the Bad Batch. In the finale of the Bad Batch, when an older Omega leaves an old hunter on Pabu and leaves for the rebellion, guess what? Boba Fett is still out there. And yet we have no mention of, have they ever encountered this guy? Have they ever encountered their brother? Because he is the Alpha. He is the first clone to ever been created from Jango Fett. He treated him as a son, but to these other guys, to Rex more specifically, he is another brother. Perhaps he can even be perceived as an older brother. Even though the rapid aging does not apply to Boba Fett, he ages as a normal human. The clones do age faster. Boba Fett was born first, so essentially all these other clones need to find their older brother. This is what I'm talking about, and this is what we've discussed a lot previously about a new clone series headed by Dave Filoni featuring Captain Rex, Wolf, Gregor, Cody perhaps, Echo, as they fight the Empire. Seen this in the Bad Batch, why not a fully fledged new series where finally a animated version of Boba Fett could be featured, and he will meet not only Rex and Wolf and Gregor, but also Omega, his sister. After all, it's Star Wars. We need to have brothers and sisters meet each other and recollect their tumultuous time with their father. She will eventually, I think, find out that she has a brother or a twin, depending on what you want to call it, because the DNA is 100% Jango's on both accounts, on both the Alpha, which is Boba, of course, and Omega. So they can be considered twins, of course, but let's just say brother and sister for the sake of it. She will find out that she has a brother that is a bounty hunter, and that occasionally he works for the Empire, and for the worst and the worst, Darth Vader. He is a bounty hunter for hire, and the Empire does occasionally want bounty hunters to do the dirty work. As we see even in the Bad Batch, Omega knows this pretty well, that it was Cad Bane who was hired to work for the Empire to actually go grab Force-sensitive children. So imagine her bafflement when she finds out that she has a twin out there that is doing evil things for the Empire. Now, a crazy notion is the Book of Boba Fett completely transforms Boba Fett as a character. We see that in the Book of Boba Fett, after he escapes the Sarlacc pit, Boba is a totally different man. He goes and spends years with the Tusken Raiders, gets engulfed into their culture, and has an arc. He has a 180. He becomes the protector of their village. He becomes the protector of Mos Espa. He becomes essentially the protector of Tatooine against criminal organizations. But was this transformation actually just because of the Tusken Raiders, or can we attribute this to an earlier meeting with Omega that we are perhaps going to see in either a future animated show or perhaps the Skeleton Crew that is coming this year? You see, the Skeleton Crew takes place after the events of Return of the Jedi, because in Empire Strikes Back, yes, Boba Fett is the quintessential villain. He is out for himself. He goes up against the main characters, the good characters, so he is the villain in that movie. He is side by side with Darth Vader on Bespin, for crying out loud. But in Return of the Jedi, he is not all that evil. In Return of the Jedi, he is just standing by watching the events unfold inside Jabba's palace beside Jabba. He doesn't do anything that crazy other than go up against Luke Skywalker, who is threatening his main employer, Jabba. Essentially, he is just there at that moment. Once he is inside the Sarlacc pit, it, as I said, he gets transformed, escapes, gets ingratiated with the Tusken Raiders, but it doesn't surprise me that in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, there was perhaps a meeting between Boba and Omega, between Alpha and Omega, I should say more specifically. And either that or during his time with the Tusken Raiders, that's where we're gonna see in Skeleton Crew, because the Skeleton Crew does take place after Return of the Jedi. So we might see Boba Fett in that series. With the snapshots that we have of Jude Law does point to him being on Tatooine. So perhaps Boba Fett will be involved, and during those scenes we get a live action Omega where she finally meets face to face with her brother. This is a scene that we did not see but ultimately led to the complete transformation of Boba Fett that we see in the book of Boba Fett, the softening up of Boba, so to say. What you have to understand is that Omega as a character was always from day one designed as a opposite to Boba Fett. They are, if you look at it from afar, they are two sides of the same coin. They are both from Jango Fett, however, gender-wise, they are totally different. They are at the other end of the spectrum, and character-wise. A story about a family and what it means. Boba knew and loved his father, Jango Fett, just as Omega now grew to love Hunter and the Bad Batch. But just like Jango Fett, they won't be around forever. Boba was left alone, and now Omega, it seems, in her pursuit to fight for the rebellion, she is leaving Hunter behind, literally. So one day, once the fight is over, Omega will be kind of directionless. She has no more fight to give. Faced with a choice, now she needs to understand who she was and who will she be. And in her pursuit of the past, this is when she will come into direct contact or perhaps even conflict with Boba Fett at some point. It's either after the events of the Bad Batch finale, during the rebellion, during the Galactic Civil War, or afterwards after Return of the Jedi. What's even crazy, of course, is that Boba Fett dons the armor, so at first they perhaps won't even know that they are siblings. But this is a perfect storyline, especially for Dave Filoni, who likes to toy with these particular family stories, that a sibling rivalry would be a great story arc for these two. I mean, heck, if you think about it, Omega knows Fennec Shand by this point. Fennec Shand even sent Asajj Ventress to Pabu to meet with them. And of course, Boba Fett, as you see in the book of Boba Fett, is working closely at hand with Fennec Shand, so their meeting is completely inevitable, be it through Fennec Shand, be it through themselves. Somehow, some way, I think that we are awaiting a great story in between these two siblings, Alpha and Omega. And don't forget that Captain Rex, even in his older days during Star Wars Rebels, he never mentioned or divulges if he ever met a clone by the name of Boba Fett, now a bounty hunter. I don't know why, but Dave Filoni just isn't that into Boba Fett. Keep in mind that Boba Fett has yet to make his Disney animated debut. He only appeared in the old Clone Wars series, but ever since Disney took over, he didn't appear in Star Wars Rebels. He now didn't appear in The Bad Batch, so we're still waiting for Boba to not only get back into the animated fold, but also meet up with the other clones.